Matt, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
This is a different episode than usual. I am not at home. We are in your studio office in Hawaii, which is normal for you and exceptional for me.
Yeah. It's getting to be normal. This is still kind of a weird setup for me too.
Well, and we have a bit in common of that you are also Canadian, is where you come from.
Yeah.
And you now live in Hawaii and have for a while.
Yeah.
And I don't know, this is like a pretty cool thing that we got to do this together. We worked on a video, which I don't know if it'll be out before or after this episode. If it is out, then I'll link to it. If not, keep an eye out on Matt's channel. But I guess a good place to start would be what do you do now and how did you get there? I'll give a hint that you make videos and you're a YouTuber, but what did you used to do? How did you get into it?
Yeah. I'm honored that you said YouTuber. That's hopefully like the goal, to be able to do full-time YouTube. But I would say, man, I never know if it's like content creator, photographer, videographer,
you decide.
Creative. It's like all those things kind of, I guess, smushed together.
I think they all like have a space. I've been using creator or content creator for us because we do sort of multifaceted different media projects. We do photos and videos. So it encompasses more than one thing. Yeah. And some people feel like that's a bad thing. It's like, oh, it's too general. Like I'm a filmmaker or I'm a photographer. It's like, well, but what if you do other things? Yeah, a lot of us, do a lot of stuff these days. So, but you mostly do video. Yeah.
Man, I feel like actually it's similar to what you guys do. So it's working with, I guess there's kind of the two sides of things. There's the social media side and then the content creating side. Mm-hmm. So the content creating side is working with either local companies or nonprofits or brands, and then also brands that are on the mainland. So that could be creating content for them, or creating content for them that will also be posted on my social media. Right. And then that brings in the social media stuff. Yeah. So that's getting paid for either posting or,
I feel like that's the modern way things are. It's becoming more and more normal, but you still have to explain it to people because most people aren't doing it.
Yeah.
But how did you get into it as well? Like what was the first video that got you excited about the idea that like, oh, maybe I could do this?
Yeah. Man, I don't know what the first, I can tell you kind of the journey of how everything started, which kind of, that brings us back to Winnipeg. When I think I was maybe 8 or 10, finding a cassette, VHS, not a VHS, but a camcorder that my parents had and shooting little home movies with my brother and then my neighbors.
Totally. I ended up taking apart my parents' camcorder, so hopefully they're not watching this and realizing I destroyed it. Yeah. But I just wanted to know how it worked and had to figure it out. So I can totally relate to that.
Yeah. And I think it was getting hooked kind of from there of like, I can make whatever I want. Yeah. I can direct this or shoot this. And I just got super excited. So every project at school then was, if I don't have to write an essay, can I make a video? Mm-hmm. And then from there, I think it kind of like, it died for a bit. But when I came back to Winnipeg after university, my pastor at church said, hey, I heard, you do some videos. You want to make like a Mother's Day video or something? I was like, sure, why not? Mm-hmm. And it was awful, just like so bad in every way possible. And he was like, that was incredible. That was so great. Let's do it.
But at the time, did you know it was bad? Or at the time, were you into it too?
Like 50-50. It was kind of that thing of like, I think this is bad.
But so they're saying it's good.
But they're saying it's good. So like, okay, that gives me the boost to like keep creating and keep going. And eventually it got to the point where somebody in the congregation said like, hey, I own a coffee company. Do you want to make a little commercial? And so got paid like $1,500 to make this commercial for them. And then that was kind of the jump off for like, oh, maybe I could do this full time and trying to figure out how can I actually do this full time.
It's funny because as we talk about, if we give our backstories, I'm realizing that they're less and less relevant and helpful for people starting now because like the technology is just so radically different. like, it's just so completely different.
Yeah.
That anybody's story that's getting into it now, it's like, no, of course, I already had a phone and I was making TikToks that other people liked. And so the local coffee shop got me to make their TikTok. Yeah. So, I mean, there's some overlap, but functionally I never want to stop being amazed at how far it's come, because it's just, we're in such an interesting place with it right now.
Oh, it's insane.
But so another thing we have in common is that, Winnipeg and Calgary are both like kind of mid-sized Canadian cities, like around a million people each. And now you're also, on Maui is a smaller place. So we're both like doing, professional production in not the biggest markets. And that's something that I try to give special attention to on YouTube and here as well, is that a lot of people aren't in New York, LA, or London or whatever, right? Like, it can be assumed that, okay, if you live in those cities, the way that you do this type of job it goes a certain way, and it doesn't necessarily go that way if you are in a smaller area. So like, what are some lessons you've learned about building a business that, this can be a living and you're not in a huge city?
Yeah. There's like unique advantages, I feel like, for not being in a big city, because then if you can get recognized, then you're kind of not the big fish in a little pond, but you can kind of, it's easier to become that, I guess, instead of just getting drowned out by all the talent in a big city.
It's an actual advantage. Like, that advantage is kind of been real for us in Calgary anyway. And even we'll end up being the go-to people in the West. So people from Toronto will reach out to us when they need projects done in our area, because we're the bigger fish in a smaller pond. Yeah.
Yeah. I always feel like, because I think I told you this before, like, this year is the first year where I was like, wow, like I'm doing it. The other years I was doing it, but I was still kind of, struggling to make ends meet, so to speak. But this year has been wonderful. And I think it's like I know people say it all the time. It's like, if I can do it, then anybody can do it. I feel like it's literally the case though. Like, if I can do this, if I can get to where I've gotten, anybody can do it. Cause I don't think I'm doing anything special. Like, if you watch my stuff, I don't think anybody's like blown away by it. There was one video I'd put out a while ago, and I kind of want to put it out again, but it was making a living off of mediocrity. Because I think it's just,
is it a how-to guide or
kind of, yeah. Because it's like, okay, if I'm a 6 or a 7, if I'm giving myself a little extra credit, there's still all these people below me, the 6, 5s, 4s, in terms of like their quality of the video or the photos that they're putting out, which means I've got this huge market of people I can still reach out to. They're going to say, wow, that's so much better than we've seen with other people. And the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s are probably way out of their budget in terms of brands or so I think that's also, like, in a smaller space, you usually have smaller budgets, and you can just kind of like build off of that, so you can create the repetitive kind of income or client.
I mean, as long as you stay smart about setting those budgets in a way that can run a business, because that's the thing, is it doesn't matter how small the area, the market is. There's a baseline of like, well, you spend this much time on each project, you do need this much gear to get started. So as long as there's enough businesses to understand that there is a baseline, you can definitely like really get started and take it somewhere with that. So, I mean, it's great to hear that it's like kicking off for you though. It's awesome. And I mean, the project that we did together as well is Take a Hike, which is like a series you're working on with a few other YouTubers. And it's cool. So we walked around, took a hike, answered some questions. I've also got just like a little bit of a list of this is going to be a grab bag episode, because there wasn't like a big overriding story. I don't know if we had anything we wanted to dive into for an hour. So instead we'll talk about a bunch of stuff that since we were hanging out for a few days already, we've already also been able to test some gear together. We use some of the same gear. So I think there's a lot we can learn from each other in terms of video or also photography today. First thing on my list was the camera that I've been testing. I haven't started the review yet. and I'm a little behind. I'm a little behind in both videos that I'm making right now. But that's the Fuji X-H2S, which is their new flagship APS-C, like their new best of the best. And the X-H2 or X-H1S, which I didn't even know, I didn't follow it when it came out. It was like more middle of the road. It wasn't their flagship. So I think it's taking a little bit of time for everybody to kind of figure out, like, well, what is this camera? Yeah. But so far it's awesome. So I don't know. Did you have any thoughts just taking the look at it that you did?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I had it for like a couple minutes.
You took the Instagram photo of me that got a lot of likes. So
yeah.
I appreciate that.
It was the model on the other end. Yeah, I think so. I was surprised by a couple things. The autofocus was picking up like right away.
Yeah, it's good now.
Yeah, and capturing your eyeballs every time. So that was surprising because I thought it would have a crappy autofocus system. Sure. But it didn't. It was great. And the colors were awesome.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
I was really stoked about that.
That was it's funny because that was the part that the focus was a surprise. Yeah. The colors weren't a surprise because, I've talked about it on the show. I've heard from everybody. Fuji has a reputation, and it's interesting because anytime we talk about color science in terms of some kind of like branding exercise, I always want to clarify what this means. The goodness of Fuji colors to me are that if you use what Fuji gives you, if you bake them in, especially into JPEGs, they will offer you some filmic looking presets that look wonderful without being adjusted. If you're just shooting raw, you can edit them in all the ways that every other camera is available. Like that, the playing field's pretty level when it comes to raw photography. But I was able to push this a little further because I was also using some of the built-in colors for the video that we were shooting today, which you haven't seen it yet and hasn't been edited. I haven't even really reviewed the footage, but I never shoot anything but log until this because like it looked good. Yeah. So I don't like. Do you see a place for a camera like that in your workflow? Like your Canon. Actually, we were both using the same cameras for context.
Yeah.
What's your kind of standard kit?
So video, C70, and then I'll do like the occasional maybe like B cam or certain video projects, or like what we did with the Take a Hike. I'll use my Canon R5, but the R5 is usually just for photography. That's pretty much it.
Right. Yeah. That's how so same kit. Yeah. But yeah, so like, because I keep thinking about that it feels like there still is a place in my kit for basically this Fuji for travel is what would be nice because it's much lighter. Yeah. This idea of having being able to just like post more photos because I'm not doing any work on them afterwards. All my all my simple, boring tourist photos from throughout the day that, I didn't think that hard about. They end up getting posted because I don't need to do more work with them later. Yeah. And I find a lot of those tourist photos kind of get lost on my R5.
Yeah.
Or I just don't take it because it's heavy.
Yeah. And you could probably do it with like a vlog or something with video too. You don't have to spend, however long color grading or trying to figure out. It's just like, here it is, done, put it out there.
Yeah.
Like just something simple.
Yeah. That's what I'm hoping happens from this. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll still end up color grading it, but and I'll make sure to in the video also talk about the film emulation presets because you have to kind of learn them a bit. And actually, that's the biggest strength this has come up a bunch of times, especially when Simbarush comes on the episode. We talk about all this, but the strength is that Fuji lets you make these choices. It's like they have some film presets that start you in the right direction that feel a little bit like filmic, but you can control things like how deep are your shadows, like where's the roll off, and are you tinting and towards a different color. You can bring blues a little bit darker. Like there's some specific settings that are like manipulating your image and pushing it in different directions. And there is none of that on Canon. It's like neutral or landscape. I mean, the profiles on Canon just look like
it's pretty crappy.
Yeah, it's turning the saturation up and down, and that's it, which is stupid. But But then, you know, on the Sony side, there's also, is it called, no, not Cineon. Cineon's grading.
I don't even.
Do you remember? Yeah. So Fuji, I just went through every. Sony has a nice like baked in Rec 709 look as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Sony.
Right. But I like this idea. I mean, I think it's nice to have that bit of flexibility. Yeah. So yeah, I haven't done the full review yet, but I'm really liking the X-H2S, which is too many letters for a single camera name. But the H2S, I've really liked it.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, the little bit that I had with it was sweet.
Yeah. And after, like you said, the autofocus being better now, you know, at first I was like, oh, you know, I want a Fuji, but I don't know if I need the top of the, like, it's quite a bit more expensive. But then once the focus is so good, I'm like, but maybe I do need this Fuji. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see where it goes. But if anybody's thinking about it, so far so good.
Do you think it'd be like a competitor to like the Leica kind of feel? Like, you know how like Leica's got this specific look.
The Q2 is, a lot of people love that camera. I think it makes way more sense for most people. Like, just get the Fuji. Well, and also, I mean, in terms of image quality too, it's definitely not worse. The Leica lenses are, they're better. Like, they're not just arbitrarily super expensive. You know, they actually look really, really nice, and you can see a difference, but the gains are kind of marginal. Like a Fuji lens, the good lenses are pretty good too, and most people won't spot that difference. They're more going to recognize that, you know, you've got really great autofocus, which is going to work better on the Fuji. That ability to kind of manipulate your colors straight out of camera, it's a bit more flexible on the Fuji. You're going to have a bunch of stuff that you can't do on the Leica, whereas the Leica, you know, the things that are hard to argue with is that having it in your hands you feel powerful. You're like, I could take a good photo with this good camera. Yeah. But have you shot with the Leica before?
No. I've been close to like buying one. I can't justify it.
No, you shouldn't. Was it going to be film or digital?
Digital. Yeah. But I mean, so I guess what I was telling you about this too, the reviewing the Zeiss Otis lenses. Mm-hmm. I feel like when it comes down to everything, if you're posting on social media, honestly, just for like I would say like 95% of everything that I do, you can't tell the difference between like a Canon Prime and an Otis lens, and it's half the price or even less. Mm-hmm. And so I think like what it offers, this super clean, crisp image that's perfect. I think I'd rather have something that has like character and maybe even a little bit of what could be considered like a flaw.
Because that's when you can see it in a thumbnail. I mean, that's what's most interesting to me about any image quality, and should always be taken into consideration when I'm talking about the color out of a camera or a lens profile or dynamic range. That's why I harp on dynamic range so much, is because all these things you can see in the smallest thumbnail. You do not need 4K to see that. That's why Netflix still shoots on Red and Alexa, even if it's only going to be watched on your phone, because it looks better on your phone, you know. So, but you are also about to test out some lenses that, I mean, I've looked at a lot for a while. So speaking of the Atlas Anamorphic, I don't know if there's more model names to
the Orion series.
Yeah.
I have the set. I think it's the set A. So 40 millimeter, 65, and 100 millimeter.
Nice.
And I have never been more excited.
No, that's really great. Yeah. I mean, I think I follow them, so I see like the stuff that comes out a lot.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's beautiful. I think you're gonna have a bit of trouble because of not because of them. I mean, you know, not because of them, but because of the camera manufacturers. So I'm gonna get back on my hobby horse and complain about lack of open gate. So you're gonna be shooting these on the C70.
Yep.
How's that gonna go?
So I will be shooting on a sliver, just because it's a Super 35.
Well, yeah, but not just because of the like size of the sensor. I guess actually, no, on a C70, I shouldn't complain as much because they're not cropping anything. You are using the whole sensor.
Yeah.
You also have an R5.
Yes.
And you might, I assume you're probably going to just try them on there. Just
yeah,
to see.
I'll try it out. We talked about that too, like
the
image quality.
It's still not going to be, it's still not going to be great. And what kills me is that on something like an R5, you've got a 4x6 sensor and you're chopping off the top and bottom. And because of that, an anamorphic lens gets skinnier and skinnier as it stretches. So
yeah. I was shooting just a little bit. So my babies, my twins were eating dinner, and I had the lens, and I was like, I just want to test it out, and like it looks incredible. The C70, again, I spent like 5 minutes trying to figure everything out, so I couldn't really figure out how to the 2x squeeze wasn't really working on my screen,
right?
But it worked on an external monitor, so that was great.
Right.
So I'll just be, I don't know how much time I'm gonna spend trying to figure it out if it's already working on my external monitor.
Right.
So that was okay, but yeah, it's the that squeeze, or like I don't know how to describe it, the sliver of a shot.
Yeah, the aspect ratio becomes an absurd number that nobody would typically use.
Yeah. Somebody actually asked me, they're like, what's the aspect ratio that you shoot on with the C70 with these anamorphic? I was like, I don't know. It's just, it's small.
But I mean, what I've seen other people do, I think it's Andrew Murphy did a video specifically about this as well, using the same lenses. And for anybody curious about shooting anamorphic on a 16:9 sensor, whatever it is, should check that one out because... And check out whatever you end up doing as well, because it's different from what you might intuitively expect, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But I'm still excited. I mean, just looking at that little bit that I got.
Oh, I was going to say what he did in his is he just cropped it a bit. Just take the sides off. You've still got a lot of the character of the lens.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of what I've figured that I'll be doing.
Right.
But yeah, that's fine with me.
You could also take still photos with your R5 and then have a little more sensor space.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just excited to try out so many different things and just shoot the crap out of these lenses.
Well, anamorphic still feels like the last kind of rare thing that you can really make your image look very different from most people's through just a technical change, because they're still a rare lens, you know, like they're not common. They're not suddenly going to become common because they're inherently bigger, more expensive. There are other brands bringing the price even way down, because Atlas was like the Orions? Orions? Yeah, that makes more sense. That makes way more sense. But yeah, so the Orions were the like really affordable, like, wow, can you believe the price of these anamorphics? And now there's like others coming in, like Siriu.
I still have no idea.
Another name I can't pronounce.
Isn't it like Suray or something?
That makes more sense.
But like
you're the pronunciation expert for this episode. But yeah, those are like significantly less than the Orions.
I think they're like 1,500, $2,000, somewhere around there.
So,
not too
but
bad.
the blue on those looks, the flare, like the blue flare is like not a nice blue. So you can see the difference. So, a little more gear I wanted to talk about. Another thing we tested today, spent a little bit of time with, was the new Ronin RS3 Pro.
It was sleek.
Yeah, it was pretty good, huh?
I liked it. And the fact that it held the... Am I jumping too far ahead?
Spoil it. Go ahead.
That's
hopefully
okay?
People still watch the video, even if you say it now.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Balancing the C70 and the Atlas lens.
Yeah.
Which had to be pretty dang close to 10 pounds.
Yeah.
If not over.
Yeah. So they're enormous. I mean, if anybody hasn't seen these, I mean, they're like, they're bigger than you think. It's like they're bigger than, I think, what's the 24-70 2.0 Canon, right? Like, have you seen those? It's like it is like a pineapple. It is enormous, and they are bigger. So, but it was comfortably on there. I mean, we were in a bit of a rush because it was like just before you had to take off. I didn't balance it that well.
And it did okay?
Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
I'm excited for you to check out that little clip of I
think it's pretty
what I
good,
shot.
But...
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
See how it turned out.
But no, overall, I mean, I'm working on a bunch of behind videos. My videos are behind, just like the podcast is behind right now. But the Ronin has been amazing. Like, it's hard to keep reviewing gimbals, because every time it's like, wow, this is a lot better. And I keep saying that every time because it's true. But it started to really get to the point where it's like checking off a lot of the list items of like what makes me kind of hate gimbals in the past, because they're always so finicky. And I don't, do you like gimbals? Do you enjoy the experience?
Yes and no. Like, I think at one point everybody shot everything on a gimbal. I feel like that was like the thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're traveling, even like travel vloggers, everything was just on a gimbal
all the time.
So you could really tell. Like, I think some gimbals have that gimbally look. Like, it's just like robotic, and and maybe that's also the operator. I don't know, but
I blame them more.
Yeah. So I think, like, in certain situations, I think they're awesome and they should be used, and they enhance what you're shooting. But then in some situations, like, it's better to be handheld. I think I've been shooting more handheld, and I kind of like, especially with the C70, I like the natural camera shake that it can give, not with the R5, because you just get those little like micro jitters or the jello wobbles.
Right. Which, did you update the software for that apparent fix yet? Or
I didn't. I saw the results. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's never bothered me that much. Yeah. I know people will complain about it on my videos, so obviously it bothers other people. But I'm putting it in my video, so like apparently I don't mind. I don't notice it. I know it's there. It's not. If I was shooting a real movie, yeah, I would be much more careful about it. But I find it shows up the most in places where you're being very uncareful anyway. Like when it is really shaky footage, and it's like, this is already nauseating. So,
yeah, it honestly hasn't been too much of a problem with, for what I shoot. So,
right.
And that's why I didn't update it. I was like, it doesn't really add anything. But yeah, I like the handheld shake of the C70, that natural kind of feel. And especially because I want to do more documentary work, I feel like that adds this element of like, I'm there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas like a gimbal is more of this like professional, smooth, I don't know, which has its place. So.
Well, yeah, often it's this misunderstanding of what you're talking about, that robotic look, is when people decide to use a gimbal for what should be handheld, because you should not be quickly looking in any direction on a gimbal. Like, gimbals should be slow. Yeah. That's, kind of when they're best is if they're naturally wrapping around something, or, the movements have kind of a slow curve to them. But otherwise, handheld makes sense. And actually, most of all with phones. A friend of mine was asking about like, which like phone gimbal should I get? It's like, these days it's not a big priority, like you can, especially an iPhone is pretty rock solid.
Yeah.
So do you shoot anything for work on your phone?
There's been a couple clients where they've requested stuff shot on the phone to make it seem more natural.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes hard for me to do. It's also hard when I see other people doing that. And that's accepted more than like a professional camera, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's
happening. I mean, I think this is a trend that's going to keep moving forward.
It's a both and. Like, I'm super excited for somebody that is able to do that can take their phone and can shoot, whatever on their phone, and that's what the brand wants and they love it, and that's great. But then maybe it's just frustrating when I see brands shooting on their phone and it's not
instead
great.
of hiring somebody.
Yeah. And you can tell like they just haven't put effort in.
Yes.
Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to crap on anybody that shoots on their phone. I think
we should get to the point where professionals are just as comfortable switching mediums, because if I were a business looking to create this kind of content, it's like most of the budget still needs to be there. The camera, how much does the camera cost out of the total budget of any production? Like, it's not a big deal. It's still mostly like planning out a great concept and executing it well. And the camera work still matters if it's shot on a phone. So yeah, I think there's so much room for, and also to keep going with it, like other production costs are the talent, the location, the styling, the script, there are so many other elements about production that are not the camera that's being used. And if you are aiming to create something that feels natural, you still need to put thought into it if you're a company hiring a filmmaker. Yeah. So I don't know. Our jobs are scarce, is what I'm backing myself into.
Yeah.
This also all backs into another topic I wanted to hit of Instagram becoming TikTok. I made a reel about it. Everybody's talking about it. What's your Instagram life been like lately? That good, hey?
Yeah. So I had my wife and I had twins. So for the last year and a half, it was tough. I had to spend like a lot of time at home, so I couldn't post as much as I wanted to, and Instagram didn't they didn't treat me well after that. So that was really frustrating, because I think, and I do love the photo aspect of Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I love taking photos. I think there should be a place for taking photos, and they're obviously not going in that direction anymore. So again, I have there's the love-hate, because I love to create videos, and I see other people, like I've got a friend who's grown almost like 100,000 in a year creating kind of a TikTok style reel.
Yeah.
And so I want to celebrate that. That's great. Good for him. Mm-hmm. I'm so stoked. At the same time, I'm also super jealous.
Yeah, right.
And it's hard not to be like, dang, I don't want to make those kinds of videos. And if I'm punished because of that kind of sucks. Yeah. But then I get it. I mean, Instagram can do whatever they want with their platform. Mm-hmm. It's their platform.
That's my frustration with videos too, is when it feels like it needs to follow a format. Yeah. Maybe the best example is like when there's, I'm not talking about anybody particular, but a bunch of photographers that I followed for a long time posting their great photography work now need to like lean on comedy, which is like, it's great that people can pivot and make it work, but it's just like, is this the world we want to be in, where it's like you develop a specific talent for, capturing the world in a specific aesthetic way, and then you need to flip that into making jokes about it, like basically satirizing that hobby. Like it's, maybe not ideal. So
yeah, that's where, I'm like trying not to be, I don't want to be critical, but then it's also frustrating, but it's also great for that it works for some people, and they can take advantage of it. And like, that's great. Yeah.
Well,
maybe I'll leave it.
Part of what I've been saying too is that like, there's absolutely no downside for anybody that's found success. That like, that's not who I'd fault in any way. It's that, and I also don't really fault Instagram. So I'm very middle of the road on this, that I think, the reasons they're doing it make a lot of sense. If I worked there right now and you're looking at your spreadsheets, which I'm sure they are, and those sheets are saying like, look, video is like, crack. Like people just stay on the platform for hours scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and you can see what's happening with TikTok. Are you just going to leave that on the table? I mean, especially if you're Meta/Facebook, who their favorite thing is to just steal from other companies. Like they don't come up with their own ideas. Yeah. Of course they're going to say like, okay, well, let's take this idea and grow with it. So even when they say that they might, because there was a bit of a backtracking after the huge backlash, I don't think that's going to last.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's where the money is.
Yeah.
So
that's
more
that's where they're going to go. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not that it's great. I still feel like we do need a place for photography. I reactivated my Glass account.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah. I like what they've done. I think they've made a really nice app. The concept being that, you know, your advertisers aren't paying for the platform, the users are. I like that ethos. I think that's a nice way to build a company. It's smart. It feels good. But I feel like it's also sort of going to be hard to like really sustain over time. Like, I don't know, like, when you share a photo, like why do you share it?
Yeah. Oh man. I think there's so many, like, it's a creative outlet. Part of me does want, you know, the instant
a response.
Yeah. The gratification, the response. It's also to show work, to create like a bit of a portfolio. There's so many things.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, if I had to pay to do that, would I? Honestly, right now, probably not.
The community is going to be much smaller,
yeah.
right? Because always less people will pay in the end.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a really uphill battle.
Yeah.
But I'm glad somebody's trying.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the older, there's a photo sharing app that.
Other than Flickr?
Yeah.
SmugMug, 500px.
No, it was kind of like Instagram. It was supposed to be the next Instagram, but it like fizzled out.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even remember. I just watched Peter McKinnon talked about it on his video
wasn't
today.
That long ago?
No.
Yeah, no, I'm not thinking.
I can't even see the. I mean,
yeah,
there's the problem right there.
I mean, the network effect is huge. Like people go where other people are, because if the point of posting it is for people to see it, then why would you post it? Otherwise, you might as well just direct message it to your parents, you know, like, which you should do. I mean, yeah, send your parents a postcard if you haven't lately, but you know, it's not necessarily the reason we post things on big media platforms. So
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I just like, I feel like when people, people also need to maintain the context of that Facebook Meta is in a really bad place right now, business wise. Like it's the first time they shrank. TikTok is growing much faster, and they are very aware of it. And like, of course they're gonna pursue whatever it takes to continue to grow. Because right now there is a real risk of them not. Okay, so Facebook's not going to suddenly disappear, but I just heard an anecdote yesterday about Carol Co, which is. Does that name ring any bells? Yeah, it didn't for me either until I saw the logo. I'm like, oh. So they're a film production company that made first Rambo movies, Terminator, I think RoboCop, like the biggest action movies of like late 80s, early 90s. Like they massively grew really quickly to being exceptionally profitable in the entertainment industry. They had it, I think it was like 1992 or 1991. They made $500 million or something, which was like, that's, you know, by today's dollars is insane.
Yeah.
And within 3 or 4 more years, they disappeared as a company. They had a few busts, a few bad films, and the money dried up and they vanished.
Wow.
And that Facebook isn't going to vanish, but if Instagram becomes uncool enough, you know, like it's going to hurt them like significantly, right? So, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is racing for the metaverse, and he's going to drag us all with him, whether we like it or not. And but at the same time, it's like people may not be interested in that at all. And like, would you hang out in the? It's like I don't even have to ask.
No.
Have you talked to anyone that is excited about the idea of the metaverse?
I think every single person that I've talked to is like terrified about it and like where that could go. There's not a
yeah, and that's like the universal response. And meanwhile, he's thinking this is the future, you know.
Yeah, he's going for it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to go for something, but this isn't it.
I don't think this is it.
Yeah.
Well, so okay, question for you: what do you think the difference is between TikTok and Vine? Like, do you think that's where TikTok is headed, or why? How is TikTok capitalized on something that Vine fizzled out? You think it's like the generation that?
I don't know why Vine fizzled out really. I mean, I think it was sort of poorly managed by Twitter. But one difference, which I don't remember the discovery mechanism on Vine. I think you followed people like you do on Instagram. I think it was similar structurally to like you have friends. Or like YouTube, because this was the whole metaphor for all of it. It's like you would follow people or you would become friends with them. So it was either one or two-way relationship. And the real game changer with TikTok is that they just feed you content from strangers using an algorithm that I think is kind of overrated. A lot of people are like, it's like the TikTok algorithm can read your mind. I don't know what other people are getting. My feed is garbage and is not reading my mind at all. But the point is that it's going to just like present things to you, and like you hope that you like it. Well, it seems to work. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's like they have found a way to just present you with random stuff from strangers that is compelling. Yeah. And that's the fundamental thing that Instagram's looking to take that idea, even more so than full screen videos. The key concept is by recommending content from strangers, it can lead to this exponential growth that TikTok has found. So I think that's what they're hoping for anyway.
Yeah. Are you big on TikTok? Do you do a lot of TikToking?
No. I'm trying to post on it a little more often. I know that I would love it if I was younger. If I had been starting now, I would get it. Yeah. But it's harder to just like you pivot instantly when you're like, well, I like what I'm doing now. And I also don't really trust them as a company. For many reasons, but, I mean, a big one is also the stuff that Hank Green goes on about, which is the way they do revenue sharing, which is not like, YouTube where, if a viewer watches an ad, you get some of the money. On TikTok, there's a limited pool. Doesn't matter how much money TikTok makes, they pay you the same fraction that they plan to at the beginning of the year. So, okay, they're 3 times bigger at the end of the year. You don't get paid 3 times as much. You get paid what they decided a year ago. So that's bad for creators.
Yeah. Have you, or is it because you're Canadian, you can't get paid on Instagram, or can you get that?
Yeah, no, we can't get it in Canada. I think you can only get it in the US as far as I know.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But also I know it's like, I don't think it's that much money compared to YouTube. YouTube seems to be the only place that you can make real money I know if you're the biggest people on TikTok, yeah, sure, they're making money, but for normal people. Yeah. One more thing I want to ask about. So as a Canon shooter, I saw some people on Twitter the other day saying that they liked C-Log 3 more than C-Log 2. What do you shoot?
Just C-Log 1. Just C-Log 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everything about C-Log 2 is better than C-Log 3.
Yeah, there's this weird, I think the numbers really screw people up. But it's just the order that they were released in, not the order of goodness. So I don't know. So, once I realized there are some people that don't seem to have kind of found, they haven't realized how great C-Log 2 is, that maybe the message still needs to get out there a little more. Yeah. But why is that? Like, what did you notice different?
Oh man, so it's also maybe it's different because it's the R5 and the C70. So maybe the C70 is just so much better, but I feel like there's like a little more dynamic range, the flexibility, the colors that I can bring out of. It's like everything about C-Log 2 that has just been better.
Yeah, because I did some side-by-side tests to try to figure this out a bit, and I think that when exposed correctly, C-Log 3 does get very close. It actually isn't radically different in terms of what the image can look like when you really put the effort into matching it. But the flexibility is the big thing. Like, you are just able to move C-Log 2 in ways that C-Log 3 can't. So your decision can come in post a lot. It's a lot closer to RAW, basically, which I love. So,
which I mean, I don't know if you want to get into the C70 RAW, because we talked a little bit about that too.
Yeah, how's it been? Because I don't think I ended up talking about it at all. Like, I tested it myself. I thought I'd make a video about it, and then I never did.
Yeah, because I was super surprised by it. I like when they said that they were doing that, I was like, oh, finally they're not crippling their cameras. This is great. And I think the result was like, I'll just shoot the 10-bit 422. Like, there's not much of a difference. You get like the tiniest little bit of extra flexibility, but then the shadows are noisier. So and the file sizes are way bigger than the 10-bit. So like the 10-bit is, again, it's like not even noticeable.
Yeah. Same for all the hype in recording RAW on the R5.
Yeah.
Similarly, it doesn't make a big difference.
No, I found like the wobble was a bajillion times worse
in RAW.
Like, yeah. And maybe that was, I don't know.
It totally could be.
It was way worse for me.
Right.
And that was also like very early stages of the R5. Like, there had been no firmware updates for anything. But then the file sizes were insane. Yeah. Like, for that 8K RAW, that was, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it still is insane.
Yeah. It's like there's no practical reason.
Yeah, and actually that's something great about the C70 RAW as well. If you shoot the LT, it's like not that big. It is manageable. But that's what I found as well, was that in my tests it just wasn't that important of a difference, in a way that when I shot the C200, RAW is the secret on there. Like, RAW just brings everything out of it. And now looking back, I wonder if it was because there wasn't 10-bit on the camera. Maybe 10-bit's just the magic bullet no, actually it's more, because the C70 sensor, it also has such clean shadows. And the shadows would be super noisy on the C200.
That was a huge difference with the R5 and the C70. The shadows. Oh my gosh.
And it's really easy to underexpose the R5 and the shadows just kind of look like crap. I've
just been, we talked about that before. Like, I've been blown away by the C70. I feel like because it's this smaller, I feel like it gets a bad rap because it's like, I feel like people see it more as like a consumer or pro. It is a prosumer, but like the consumer kind. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's straight up like, it is a professional camera.
Yeah, and I love it.
And it's just well priced.
Yeah. Which is awesome. Like, it's pretty much the exact same as the C300 Mark III. I don't see why anybody would get the 300 Mark III.
No, totally. I mean, unless you're in a production environment where you need all the ins and outs and the, you need to build it out in a way that. Yeah.
But then I would think you would get the 500.
Well, no, I mean, you may not need you may not need full frame, and also the battery life is a lot worse. It's not inherently just better, because like, you may choose to shoot Super 35 for some purposes. So, and I mean, it's just in a really good place. But so are all the other ones, because same with this Fuji. Like, I think there's a little less dynamic range, but like, I don't know, there's now F-Log 2 instead of just the regular F-Log, so it has more dynamic range, and it shoots 6K with open gate that we were talking about before. Would be nice to put the Atlas on this Fuji, because you could, so I don't know, like, the selection right now is just amazing. But I like that there's different flavors out there too, right? Like, you are getting something different, especially between, say, Fuji and Canon is like definitely a different choice. And I'm a generation behind on Sony, so I feel like I need to like try a Sony soon too, to see what I'm missing. But
yeah, I feel like everybody is shooting Sony, at least like the YouTube space. The guys that I watch.
It's really hard for me to think about giving up built-in ND filters, because I was shooting with the variable ND screw-on one today. Yeah,
that was another game changer for like, I'd never shot with the built-in NDs, and just like, I remember the first time I like, oh yeah, this is a thing. I pressed it. It's incredible.
Game changer. Because I mean, there's so many times that I end up just making a compromise otherwise. Even like, I was using a variable ND today that is like, it's a good one, I like it, but the ISO on the Fuji was a minimum of 1250 for f-log 2, and I couldn't get down to like I couldn't get down to 1.4, and I could barely get down to 2.8 without it being overexposed. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to compromise now? Do I crank up the shutter even though I have an ND on? Like, all this stuff that you just never think about that on a camera that has it built in. You just always choose the f-stop that you want it to be. So
yeah, I love it. I will never go back.
Nice. Yeah. Well, you've got everything you need, so now you don't need to buy new gear.
Hopefully not. Yeah, unless these Atlas lenses.
Right. Well,
that's a little bit of a
And then you'll need to buy a new camera to get open gate.
Here we go.
All right. Well, good luck with all of it, Matt. And again, if anybody listening hasn't seen your channel already, go check out Wake Up Matt on YouTube. And thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.